Friday afternoon, the 20th of Kithorn, in the year 1489, Dalla Reckoning. Dear Journal, I'm writing this entry at the Seagrove of Sylvanus, as I have some moments to myself. Much has transpired since my last entry. The Queen's Providence arrived at Saltmarsh this morning. When we disembarked, Sheriff Eleander, whom I remembered from my previous visits to the town, was awaiting us on the dock, accompanied by 2 of his guardsmen, looking all official. By his side stood a well-dressed she-dwarf, who was introduced to us as Mistress Manistrad Copperlocks, overseer of the new Saltmarsh mine. We quickly learned they were both expecting the stick of staying, which was in our possession. The sheriff was curious, if not inquisitive, as to our involvement in the matter, and First Mate Mika attested briefly to our encounter with Bluebird on the high seas. Eleander pressed us for details, and I suggested we postpone the detailed retelling of the adventure to an evening fireside chat in one of the local watering holes, as for the time being, we would like to get paid as promised for delivering the magical stick safely. The sheriff agreed and parted ways with us, leaving us with Miss Copperlocks, who, as it turned out, was the recipient of the item and the person who footed the bill for the delivery. And so it was that the 4 of us were still together as a group, walking around Saltmarsh, from the harbour quarter, all the way up to the Wicker Goat Inn, an establishment of fine repute, where Manistrad's quarters also served as her office. On the way, the locals, going about their daily business, often greeted O.V., some with affection and some with disdain, his reputation as a washed-up drunkard preceding our approach. Even I got a few looks of recognition from a local or 2 whom I have sold my herbs to previously. All of this seemed pretty normal to me, dear journal, until we reached Sharkfin Bridge Market, Saltmarsh's impromptu bazaar of hastily arranged stalls and carts, selling the day's bounty, be it the fisherman's plunder or the farmer's produce. Among the merchants' barks of fish, fresh fish, and onions, come get your pearl onions, 5 for a copper, and burlap sacks, 3 for a silver. Suddenly, a young girl's voice could be heard exclaiming, "It's her! Mum, it's her! It's the champion of Korokos!" As a child was running towards us, pointing at Anathea, who seemed a bit taken aback by the situation, her usually pale, silvery gold facial complexion suddenly flushed with a rosy glow. To my surprise, my newfound Aasimar companion was friendly, graceful, and patient with the girl and her mother, who both seemed to behave as if they have met a true hero of legends. Others nearby, both merchants and customers, have begun to show interest in Anathea, cheering, smiling, and waving. Remind me, dear journal, to ask her later about this. Our last one-on-one rapport has left me a bit unnerved, but I still feel like our bond is slowly growing. After arriving at the Wicker Goat, we concluded our business with the dwarf lady. My coin purse heavy once more, I bid farewell to the others after we all agreed to meet after sundown at the Empty Net Tavern for food, drinks, and merriment. The sun was standing up in the sky by the time I concluded refreshing supplies and spell components, and I made my way to the only tree grove in Saltmarsh to meet Ferrin and Loris, my old friends. Ferrin was a fellow halfling, but our kinship came not from being of the same race, as I hail from the Myrddin Marsh tribe, and Ferrin is originally from Waterdeep. Our kinship came from the fact he was a fellow druid, and although he was following the path of Talos and not Saluna like me, we shared a similar appreciation of nature and fauna. Loris, Ferrin's trusty giant bullfrog, was crouching patiently by the moon well. When I approached him, his tongue flicked out and gave me a wet embrace from 6 feet away. I bonded with the bullfrog for a while, as I saw smoke rising from Ferrin's treehouse, which must mean he was either brewing or auguring. I wouldn't want to bother him in the midst of either. It was almost sundown when the halfling druid shuffled down the vines to meet and greet me. Seeing as it was almost dusk already and not forgetting my promise to rejoin O.V. and the others, I apologized for dispensing with the pleasantries and got to the point. Aside from O.V., Ferrin was one of the few people who knew all about my visions and of my prophetic failures with mastering the druidic practice of wild shape. On our last meeting, Ferrin promised he will use his auguries and meditation to seek aid to my dilemma, and perhaps Talos's lightning will expose something that Saluna's moonlight did not. We meditated together, and using his help, while I was still unable to wild shape, I found a new way to harness that same druidic energy on Ziggy, my familiar. Somehow, with the combined effort of both arcane and divine energies entwined, I was now able to make Ziggy wear the form of larger, more powerful animals. Ziggy looked surprised as I shaped it to be a giant bullfrog, as if it was Laurie's twin brother. This is definitely a step forward. We rejoiced and drank a traditional herbal tea, and later Ferrin used the leaves to make an augury. The finding, as usual with these auguries, were inconclusive, but it seems the signs point that we should meet again by his moonwell, 3 nights from now, when Seluna's moon will be full. Could it be, dear journal? Could it be that merely 4 days from now, I will finally rid myself of this shortcoming and wake up as a wild-shaping druid?